Is French President Emmanuel Macron preparing for a much bigger role in the Ukraine war? A major geopolitical storm has erupted after Macron held high-stakes talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on anti-ballistic missile defense and reinforcing Ukraine's air shield. The talks came just as Ukraine launched one of its largest long-range strike operations targeting Russia's Moscow region.
Today, a very large-scale operation by the Ukrainian Defense Forces, our security service of Ukraine, and our intelligence services targeted the Moscow region. It was a significant wave of deep strikes. We gave Ukraine this capability. The distance to the targets this time was more than 500 kilometers, which is also significant because the Moscow region is the area most heavily saturated with Russian air defense systems.
Zelensky's message was clear. Ukraine can now strike deep inside Russia, including areas Moscow considers untouchable. And at the same time, France is openly discussing anti-ballistic cooperation with Kyiv, a move that could dramatically increase Europe's military role in the conflict. The Macron-Zelensky coordination has now triggered fury inside the Kremlin. Russian President Vladimir Putin accused Western elites of using Ukraine as a proxy against Moscow and claimed NATO powers provoked the war from the beginning.
What is the West? This is what I would call the so-called globalist wing of Western elites. It is the one fighting us through Ukrainians. In that sense, they are certainly well-positioned. They provoked this conflict. I have already said how it began. Oddly enough, the discussion was about Ukraine joining the EU. Sure, they could have joined, but it escalated to armed conflict. Why? Because no one cared about Russia's interests.
Putin then directly targeted Macron while revisiting the failed Istanbul peace negotiations of 2022. The Kremlin chief claimed France played a key role in stopping an agreement between Moscow and Kyiv after Russian troops withdrew from around Kyiv.
We reached an agreement with the Ukrainians in 2022 in Istanbul, but they initialed the agreement. Then one colleague, well, let's face it, Mr. Macron, called me and said that Ukraine could not sign such historic documents with a gun to its head. This is his direct speech. We have a recording of the conversation.
Now, with France discussing anti-ballistic systems for Ukraine, while Kyiv intensifies deep strikes on Russian territory, fears of direct confrontation between Moscow and Europe are growing rapidly. Zelensky says the war is returning to its home harbor. Putin says the West is fighting Russia through Ukraine. And as Macron steps deeper into Ukraine's defense architecture, one explosive question now hangs over Europe. Is France still supporting Ukraine from the sidelines, or is Macron slowly entering the war himself?